This is a series of talks on Sri Aurobindo's book Synthesis of Yoga, and today's chapter that we're going to explore is called as the lower triple Purusha, which is the chapter 20 in the section on Yoga of Integral Knowledge. Yoga of Integral Knowledge means Jnana Yoga in the light of Integral Yoga. The previous chapter was called as the Planes of Existence, where Sri Aurobindo explored an overview of the 7 planes of existence, the 7 planes on which the Purusha or the soul can exist. The topmost being the Sat, then the Chit, then Ananda, then the supramental, and then the lower 3 layers, which is mind, vital, and the physical. There are various systems through which actually the planes of existence are infinite, but broadly Sri Aurobindo offers us that these are the 7 planes on which a soul can exist and view life with different paradigms. The lower 3 planes, the mind, the vital, and the body, or the mental, the vital, and the physical, has its own wheels of ignorance. The supreme divine, which is the Sat, is covered by layers of ignorance and, so to say, hidden from us. Whereas at the other 4 layers, the higher 4 layers, which is the supramental, Ananda, Chit, and Sat, the supreme divine is revealed, is palpable, is felt or experienced in its original essential purity. And hence, the experience for a sadhak is very different at the top 4 layers and the lower 3 layers. And Sri Aurobindo emphasizes in the previous chapter that usually at best as human beings we have the capacity to rise up to the 4th and 5th layer, and the most common existence happens at the lower 3 levels. And that is how the Panchkosha philosophy, which shares that we are Annamaya Kosha, or the physical, then Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, and then a Vijnanamaya and the Anandamaya Kosha. So usually the human existence transpires at these 5 levels. And Sri Aurobindo at the outset of this chapter describes this ladder of transcendence through these words. He says that this is as if a ladder plunging down into matter and perhaps below it, and rising up into the heights of the spirit, even perhaps to the point at which existence escapes out of the cosmic being into the ranges of a supracosmic absolute. So it's a ladder of transcendence which even plunges down below the matter and even goes beyond any cosmic conception into a supracosmic absolute. So that is the kind of ladder this is. And this chapter, which is called as the lower triple Purusha, is an exploration of the experience for the Purusha referring to the soul or the witness or the static aspect of ourselves in any given paradigm at any level in this transcendence, or at the level of the manifest universe. There will always be 2 elements at play, a static and a dynamic element, whether it is the Purusha and the Prakriti, or it is the Sat and the Chit. There will always be a play of the two. And this chapter is an exploration of how the Purusha relates to the dynamic element at these lower three levels. And here at the lower three levels, especially in the physical, the inertness and ignorance of the physical creates a thick veil of ignorance wherein the Purusha almost completely becomes unaware of its infinite potential. It almost forgets that it has the capacity to rise up to the Purushottama, its own highest self. And the deeper it plunges into the physical, the more unconscious it usually gets of its own highest potential. And this Sri Aurobindo describes through these lines that ordinary materialized consciousness, all this does not exist. So to the ordinary materialized consciousness, when the Purusha plunges into the matter, to that, this whole ladder of transcendence, it does not exist. Because it is hidden from us by our preoccupation with our existence in a little corner of the material universe, and with the petty experiences of the little hour of time which is represented by our life in a single body upon this earth. So he beautifully describes how we feel normally in our life, that we are preoccupied with our existence in a little corner of material universe. Here we are talking about this cosmic being relating to the entire universe, embracing the whole, and then we plunge into the matter and we get preoccupied with this body which can be seen as just a little corner in this infinite universe. And we get preoccupied with this little hour of time. So Sri Aurobindo offers us perspective that how in this eternity, this infinite time and space, we get preoccupied with this little hour which we call as our lifetime. And that is what happens to human beings and the Purusha plunged into the physical, preoccupied in a little corner and in a little hour. And there, some people would be preoccupied just with their own survival. Some would rise above the survival and then start seeking more harmony in their life, harmony through intellect and intellectual exploration, harmony through art or aesthetics, harmony through emotional exploration. And then it can go beyond, and human imagination can take up very different fancies, but eventually they are all centered around how the human being can lead a happier life, again preoccupied with that little corner and that little hour of time. But Purusha, which has infinite potential, may get preoccupied by this, but it is not to be satisfied by this. And that is why that discontentment that happens to human beings, whether it is the midlife crisis, having gone through the journey of exploring life, mastering certain skills, and then late 30s, early 40s, a person experiences this discontentment. I have everything, so to say, in terms of material, but yet there is something missing. So the Purusha is not to be satisfied by this external preoccupation with its own life. And that is when the movement from the outer objective world, the journey from the outer objective world shifts inward into the subjective world of spirituality. And this inner subjective world hints itself through light, through love, through an immense joy which goes beyond the pleasure and pain of the external seeking, and it generates in itself an intense curiosity for the Purusha to explore deeper and deeper. And that is what brings together people like us who are seeking this subjective world of infinite possibilities. And the journey within starts to begin. And this is what Sri Aurobindo points out, that how the life pans out in the lower three layers, that it goes through cycles of an exteriorization of life where one seeks objectivity, science, to understand all the phenomena the way it is, which one can say as a age of materialism and skepticism, not to just accept anything just like that. And that age is always followed by an age of occultism or an inner seeking. And that is what we see transpiring at this point of time, especially in the West, as the West went through 300 to 400 years of industrial revolution, entirely rejecting all sorts of occultism, to now embracing yoga and varied other forms of inner exploration as the way forward. And the cycle continues, and through that evolves the mankind and also the lower three layers, the physical, the vital, and the mental. One of the most organized and oldest attempts of human beings at this subjective exploration in the age of occultism, whenever the human being or the humanity as a whole or a collective group turns inwards in order to explore this subjective realm, one of the common thing that emerges is religion. And no discussion about lower three layers can be complete without the understanding of what does a religion mean. Sri Aurobindo describes the two common elements to any religion. The first element being a sort of an assurance. Every religion in this world tends to offer some kind of assurance that there is something beyond this objective world. There is some aspect of the divine which is infinitely full of joy and love, which has the capacity to take us beyond this world of duality and suffering. So that's one thing any religion offers. And then the second thing that comes along with it is a certain set of rules and regulations and guidelines that anybody can follow in order to discover that infinitely loveful space and to approach that space in the lifetime or after death. So this becomes the common aspect to any religion. And then there are variations based on how they see the life after death and how they see the soul's journey. In some religions, this is the only opportunity or this is the only lifetime that a soul has. And they see it as after death, there is either a possibility of a heavenly life or a possibility of eternal suffering. Some of the more evolved religions would acknowledge the fact that a soul goes through journey of lifetimes and lifetimes of evolution, and every being emerging from that eternally blissful source is guaranteed to eventually merge into that, and it is the pace of evolution through very different experiences, and the journey direction may be different for very different souls, but eventually everybody is bound to merge into that same blissful space. So eventually, all the same, the religion offers this assurance, offers some rules and regulations, and the paradigm may vary, but very often the rules and regulations in a religion tend to turn into dogmas or rigid systems or rigid symbolisms. Sri Aurobindo describes the essence of religion through these words, that religion is not knowledge, but a faith and aspiration. It is justified indeed by both an imprecise, intuitive knowledge of large spiritual truths and by the subjective experience of souls that have risen beyond the ordinary life. But in itself, it only gives us the hope and faith by which we may be induced to aspire to the intimate possession of the hidden tracts and larger realities of spirit. So Sri Aurobindo shares that religion is not a knowledge. Religion is a faith and an aspiration. Through its assurance, it offers that faith that there is something beyond, and it fuels the aspiration and a collective aspiration of all who follow that religion towards that object of faith. It is justified both by an imprecise intuitive knowledge of large spiritual truths. So Sri Aurobindo uses the word imprecise intuitive knowledge. So the religion is emerging from human beings who have aspired to go beyond the ordinary objective materialized and delved into the subjective or one facet of the subjective, because the subjective itself is infinite, and through that there is some intuitive knowledge that emerges, but one needs to acknowledge that may not be entirely precise and also may not be entirely contemporary to the age we live in. And then it contains the subjective experience of the souls. So here Sri Aurobindo talks about both the aspect. Religion evokes faith and aspiration, but it also brings in a certain imprecise knowledge and the subjective experience. So one has to take religion with a pinch of salt, but eventually the aim of the religion is to draw us towards those intimate tracts through which one can have a close relationship with the divine. But usually what happens to religion, where it is turned into system, symbolism, rigid rules, that is actually a reflection of the spiritual infancy of our society. It's not just a problem of the religion, but it's also reflecting the state of our own being, that we tend to turn it into those rules and dogmas, that this is right, this is wrong, that kind of a situation. And this is where yoga comes into the picture in the lower triple Purusha, which offers us an opportunity to look at that faith and aspiration, look at the true meaning behind each of those symbolisms. Just like science does us the service of actually understanding each and every phenomena in this outer world, that the sun is not going around earth, it's actually earth going around sun. The same way, the yoga offers us the science or the essence of every subjective phenomena and external symbolism that religion brings. Whether it is the fire of the yajna, actually in yoga representing the fire of sacrifice, or the flame of the diya representing the flame of aspiration, or the pouring of milk on shivling representing the infinite bliss pouring onto the Agya Chakra, it all starts to make more meaning when we embark the journey of yoga. And in this chapter, Sri Aurobindo then enlightens us about how the science of yoga sees the life of Purusha on the lower three layers: physical, vital and mental. So at the physical level, human beings are not just matter. We are matter infused with vitality and infused with a mind. So it's a physical with a physical vital and a physical mental. But since the vital and the mental are dependent on the physical, they carry along with it that inertia and ignorance of the physical. And this physical Purusha view justifies how a scientist or a materialist would see the human being. And one of the videos that I watched some time back, I get reminded of that, where there was a debate between a yogi and a scientist. The yogi was talking about the infinite potential of human beings, what we can do, what is our capacity. And the scientist is saying that, what happens if I take away your brain? Will you be still able to do all these things? If you say that human beings are not this physical body and is so much infinite about us, but if I take away this brain, what will happen to you? So that was the logic of the scientist and the materialist, and through that, this physical paradigm gets justified, that actually the physical and the physical vital and the physical mental is dependent on matter, so to say. And that is true for most of the ordinary human mentality, that we view ourselves in this way, and until we are caught up in this viewpoint, as per the theory of reincarnation, Sri Aurobindo says that there will be a very strong downward pull towards again and again being reborn in the same paradigm, until the soul, the physical Purusha, can work out that it is something beyond this. It has a capacity beyond the physical and physical vital and physical mental. Sri Aurobindo describes this as, for the undeveloped physical soul is entirely dominated by material nature and its impressions, and has to work them out to a better advantage before it can rise in the scale of being. So this is actually a very profound statement, because he doesn't say that the physical can rise or scale up by rejecting the physical. He uses the words until it can work them out to a better advantage before it can rise in the scale of being. So one can see that I am this physical body and this is who I am, and I need to take care of my own needs, or at best the collective needs of the whole, or it can be worked out for a better advantage. This can be an instrument of the divine. This can be a manifestation of love. Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri, to love and to feel oneness is to live. When the physical takes up this purpose, to love and to feel oneness, so then the physical has worked out for a greater purpose than itself. And that is when the journey upwards can start, and the physical can discover, the physical Purusha can discover that it is not just matter, it can also be an energetic being. It can be a vital being. And this in yoga can be done by concentration and focusing and withdrawing one's energies from the physical into the energetic being, into the vital Purusha. It can be done by drawing oneself back, by witnessing, and these processes Sri Aurobindo has described in the previous chapters, and we can engage in one of these processes at the end of the talk through a meditative experience. But one can draw oneself, the physical Purusha, into the vital Purusha, and then see oneself at a slight distance from the physical body and feel like a ball of energy. And then the physical body is experienced more like a cloth or a robe that one wears, rather than feeling like this physical body. And that opens up the Purusha to a whole world of infinite capacities. It opens up to a world, or the vital world, or one may call it as the desire world, which is full of teacher souls, the divine forms, through which the Purusha can learn and over time also imbibe occult powers or siddhis. At this level, one then starts to see everyone as an energy and starts to become sensitive of other people's energies. But with this sensitivity and capacity of developing siddhis and occult powers comes the need for vigilance, because in the vital world or desire world, there are these more constructive desires which help in the evolution of the human beings and the whole. But there are also these destructive desires which are very close back again to the physical vital and the lower ranges, which again delay one's progress and pull one down. And hence it is important that the vital world is put into its perspective. And Sri Aurobindo describes and is swift in describing this point of vigilance through these lines. All this belongs, he is referring to the vital world, all this belongs to the inferior grades of spiritual experience, and indeed is hardly more spiritual than the physical existence. So he brings in this understanding that yes, one feels a little more liberated being an energetic being, but still it is an inferior grade of spiritual existence, and especially in the downward rungs, it's hardly more than the physical existence. But then the question arises that why not then just seek the highest? Why even talk about the vital or the mental if it is an inferior grade of spiritual existence? So again, it's important to put it into perspective that why do we seek to understand and explore these lower three layers? Because the aspiration in integral yoga is to rise up to the highest, the supreme divine, but then again to embrace back again and repossess this world for the sake of the divine fulfillment and build up that self-mastery at every level. So it is not just about a spiritual awakening, it is a process of the divine and self-fulfillment and a divine mastery, which can only come if we have a palpable experience at every level on this ladder of transcendence. Then comes, once one has experienced this vital or the energetic being, the third level of possibility lies the mental being. Again, the process remains the same. Through concentration and focus and withdrawal, one can withdraw the physical and the vital Purusha into the mental Purusha, the pure mind. And again, these are not the physical vital or the physical mental. These are vital proper. It's a different world altogether. And it's also not the physical mind, it's the mental layer proper. Sri Aurobindo differentiates and emphasizes the difference between the two at many different points through this chapter. So it's the level of the pure mind where one withdraws into it, and at this level one is not influenced by the physical preoccupation or the desires and the ambitions and the seeking of power and money and fame and so on and so forth at the level of the vital world, which can again influence the sadhak. So the strength of the mental layer is the power of rejection. It has the capacity to see without influence and reject what is not required. The power of vital was once we withdraw. So one of the thing about the vital is when the physical Purusha withdraws from the physical and enters the vital, it then not only sees the physical as a robe, it has the capacity to mold the physical by a concentrated energy. The same way, the mental has the capacity through the power of thought to influence both the vital and the physical. But its greatest power is also the power of rejection. The power of vital is that it can fuel the aspiration of a sadhak. It's an energy, it's a fire which has, in the perspective of yoga, in the context of yoga, to fire the aspiration. And the strength of the mind is the capacity to reject. The process of Sri Aurobindo and Mother's yoga, aspiration, rejection and surrender. So the aspiration can come from the vital, and the vital being. The power of rejection can come from the enlightened or the pure mind. And this pure mind can actually see the true purpose of every power in this world. So Sri Aurobindo, when he talks about the power of rejection, he's always quick to emphasize two things: that rejection and renunciation is not so much meant to be outward, rejection and renunciation of power, money, fame, work, life. It is meant to be an inward renunciation of the attachments, the raga, the dvesh and abhinivesh, the attachment and an aversion and a fear that comes along with it. So it's a process of rejection or renunciation of these things. And other thing that Sri Aurobindo always emphasizes about rejection is that Rejection is not the ultimate aim. Rejection is meant to be a means to the eventual outcome. The outcome that one seeks is the seeking of the truth, and in a dynamic sense, a seeking of an understanding of what is important in this given situation, in this given context. We can be caught up in a life where one is seeking money all the time. The pure mind can help reject and renounce the attachments to the money in order for one to be able to see the true purpose of money. The money is a power to be won for the divine and then to be used for the purpose of divine. It is a beautiful power. So that is what the capacity of the pure mind is. It helps one reject and bring in the true purpose of each aspect of life as it is lived in the lower three layers. It also brings, just like at a vital level, one becomes aware of the energies of others. At a mental level, one becomes aware of the intentions behind different actions of people, and one also becomes aware of the struggles of the subtle powers behind whatever is manifesting in this world. Sri Aurobindo has described at many places how whether it is a world war is not just a physical phenomena. There is a struggle, or what we are going through right now in the world with the earthquakes and a cold war and very obvious wars. There is a subtle struggle which is happening between powers at a different level altogether. So when one rises up and withdraws into the pure mind, one can see through those intentions, one can start to see those occult powers, and then again starts to develop the next level of siddhis or occult powers. But here at the end of this chapter, Sri Aurobindo again emphasizes that living on these we are, and on these he refers to Trailokya or the lower triple Purusha. Whatever the enlargement of our powers, our consciousness, we may rise up to the vital energetic being, we may rise up to the mental pure mind. Whatever the enlargement of our powers and our consciousness, still living within the limits of the cosmic gods and subject, though with a much subtler, easier and modified subjection to the reign of Prakriti over Purusha. So we may have expanded through this withdrawal into vital and mental Purusha, but we are still living within the limits of the cosmic gods and subject. It seems very easy to understand it, but when one is having those experiences, or especially those heavenly experiences of the vital world, it can almost seem like, oh, this is that moment of liberation, or that the Satchidananda that I'm seeking. But Sri Aurobindo is sharing with us, enlightening us with the fact that this is still within the limits of cosmic gods, and we are still subject to the Prakriti, even though the subjection may be lesser. Subjection is most at the level of physical, lesser at the level of vital, lesser at the level of mental, but still one is subject to the Prakriti. To achieve real freedom and mastery, we have to ascend to a yet higher level of the many-plateaued mountain of our being. So for the real liberation and mastery, one has to ascend. So he starts the chapter with describing it as a ladder, and now describing it as a many-plateaued mountain. One has to rise above these lower three layers and approach the higher layers with determination, aspiration and rejection. And this is where the last element in integral yoga comes in, surrender. So the aspiration can be fueled through the vital and the physical. The physical needs to begin to be used for a better advantage. We need to live life with a greater purpose, and the vital can at its best fuel the aspiration towards those higher layers, and the mind can become a medium for pure rejection, and but the ultimate is the surrender, and the surrender has to be to the innermost, the deepest and the highest element within us. So this exploration may become more grounded and intimate to us if we follow it up with a meditative experience of what was just shared. So I invite you all to close your eyes and let's make it into an experience for us. You can start by taking 3 deep breaths. And we can bring our attention to the breath and visualize anything that's beautiful or soothing for us, be it a flower or a tree or anything which is beautiful for us, and visualize it at the center of the heart and breathe through the heart, bringing our attention to the breath flowing through the heart, through the flower or whatever you would like to visualize. And with every breath, going deeper, feeling the gratitude for having an opportunity to be an instrument of the divine. May all be an instrument of the divine. Being with the breath, being with the visualization, and one starts witnessing all the feelings within the body, be it the feet, legs, back, head, arms, forearms, hands, being with the breath in the depths of the heart with the visualization, witnessing all the feelings and saying to oneself, this is not myself or thyself. This is one working of the Prakriti in the physical. Stand back from it. And one stands back and witnesses these feelings, the tension in the body, the contractions and the relaxations in the body, being with the breath and the visualization, feeling all the feelings as happening in the body, and withdrawing from the physical into the center of heart, and seeing oneself as an energetic being, an infinite joy of the spirit, and spreading this joy in the whole physical body, in the head, in the brain, to the toes and the feet, the legs, the calf, the thighs, the hips, the back, spreading this beautiful joy or energy onto the belly, chest, forearms, arms, neck, and the head. And letting this energy expand and reach out to everyone in this room, every particle, every matter, every energy in this room, and the whole ashram, the whole Delhi, India, Asia, and this whole earth. Drawing on this beautiful infinite joy of the spirit and spreading it to the whole solar system, the galaxy, and this infinite universe. Embracing one's being as an energy and getting close to one's deep aspiration, feeling the presence, the energy of whoever is the form or aspect of divine we feel close to, feeling their energetic presence, feeling an intimate closeness, and spreading the joy of that intimate closeness to all, and evoking a deep aspiration within oneself of whatever comes naturally to us, whether it is an experience of closeness with the divine that we seek, or a certain value, be it sincerity, courage, love, joy, patience, peace, purity, simplicity. Let that aspiration be fueled by this vast energy of the vital being. Again, being with the breath and the visualization in the heart, one says to oneself, I'm not even this satisfaction or dissatisfaction, this attraction or repulsion, this expansion or contraction, these highs and lows, this love and anger, these are one workings of Prakriti in the sensational and emotional mind. Stand back from it. And one draws back from the vital, the energetic being into a deep space of peace and rhythm, a space of equal endurance, a space of impartial indifference, the space of calmness getting deeper and deeper, and one withdraws the physical and the vital Purusha into the pure mind, in the depths of the brain, in the depths of the head, going through the eyebrows, between the eyebrows, going deep into the Agya Chakra. One feels the experience of that pure light rising above the turbulences of the vital and the physical into the pure mind. And from this space, witnessing all that one still feels attached to, be it oneself, an attachment with I and my, and letting go of this attachment and seeing the true purpose of this physical and vital, which is to love and to be an instrument of the divine, to feel that oneness with all. Letting go of any attachments to a sense of power, and seeing the true purpose of power, which is to serve the divine purpose, serve the cause of divine fulfillment. See the attachments to one's own sexuality, the power of creativity. And seeing its true purpose, which is to bring in the children of divine peace, divine purity, the divine values upon this universe, to express these divine values upon this universe, to even let go of the attachments to the beautiful heavens of the vital world, and seeing their purpose, which is to mirror and to express the divine Ananda at the level of the vital. And then telling oneself, I am not even this thought or this thinker, these rights and these wrongs. These are one workings of the Prakriti in the thought. Stand back from it, and one withdraws deeper and deeper. One experiences that inward pull from the Purusha, which is in an intimate contact always with the higher Shakti. in this deeper space, surrendering all that we see as ourselves, all the possessions, physical, ancestral, spiritual, mental, unto the divine Shakti. And for the sake of this divine presence within all in this universe, one rises up and goes beyond this universe and beyond the vital and the mental worlds to the very source of infinite joy, infinite unconditional love, the very source of humility, the very source of every phenomena in this universe, the Supreme Divine, the Anantaguni, the one with infinite qualities, drawing back into the Nirguno Guni, the one which is beyond the qualities, the Absolute. And drawing oneself back again, coming down, seeing the polarity at work at the surface of this preoccupation with this little corner of the material universe and this little hour of time, and the higher polarity of a wish to ever live there, and bringing oneself back again, opening up to the divine Shakti, which is infinitely present within all that all exists, within every being, within every particle, within every animate and inanimate object, repossessing the dynamic divine with this realization of the infinite presence and infinite dynamism within all, coming down and embracing the mind as an antenna of the cosmic mind, the vital as a spark of the cosmic fire, a channel of the spirit, embracing the physical as a cell of a cosmic body, as a mold of the spirit, descending down for the sake of the divine, down into the core of the earth and plunging into the depths of the matter for the sake of transformation of the divine matter, vital, and the mind. Grateful for being an instrument of the divine, and praying may all be an instrument of the divine. Embracing the psychic and infinite quality within this individual, physical, vital, mental mold, and aspiring for this psychic space to be the director of the entire being, with intellect and the mind as a servant of the psychic. Again, being with the breath and the visualization. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.